I gotta be honest with you all, I really wasn't expecting to tackle the 90s once again. However, there's just something about this time period that has captivated me lately, specifically with gaming. Was it because of the great 3DFX Voodoo cards of the time, or how about that startup sound from Windows 98? It could be that, and much more. If I had to single out one reason though, it would be for the era of experimentation. Technology and the gaming industry was growing at an exponential rate, increasing the possibilities of what could have been done. Because of this, we have a wide array of quality titles from so many different genres. And with these lists, I try to replicate that fact with games for a variety of different gamers. With that said, please note that these games are not in any particular order. Sounds good? Let's begin.
Quake 2.
From my previous 90s list, I included Quake 3 without any hesitation. Quake 3 is an all-time classic that I've put a ton of time into, even though I still suck at it. I wanted to give a look at another Quake game released in the 90s. While many will argue that the original Quake is a superior game, I wanted to give Quake 2 some love, as it is often seen in a negative light retrospectively. It is interesting to me because honestly, this game kicks ass. The game has a pretty awesome sci-fi aesthetic. While it can be a bit dark at times, I actually really like the lighting here. From a graphical and technical standpoint, it is far more impressive than the original Quake. I especially like when you're outside looking at the red sky. Something about that sky is just striking to me, even though it's just a bitmap texture if you stare at it long enough. But of course, it's all about the gameplay, and Quake 2 serves it up well, or medium rare if that's your preference. Like many first-person shooters from the 90s, the speed is fast and frenetic. Many of these guns are very satisfying to use, especially the super shotgun. Levels feature a ton of worthwhile secrets, so definitely keep your eye out for them. There's also a multiplayer mode that features both deathmatch and cooperative modes. The multiplayer isn't up to the level of Quake 3, but they're still fun to be found with others.
Dungeon Keeper 2.
God games are unfortunately a relic of the past. There were so many of these games at the time, with the majority of them being created by the legendary studio Bullfrog Entertainment. Sadly, the company was forced to be merged with EA UK and remains buried in the EA developers graveyard. Don't get too comfortable, Dice and BioWare, you may end up there sooner than you think. Morbid thoughts aside, let's talk about the game proper. Dungeon Keeper 2 is a sequel to the original, obviously, which you play as a dungeon keeper. Your goal is to manage your dungeons by expanding your area of control, creating creatures, learning spells, managing resources, and whatever else is needed to complete the campaign. It really is the definitive title when it comes to mixing so many elements together. Heck, there's even a spell to take direct control of your units in a first-person mode. Personally, I wouldn't recommend it, but it is entertaining nonetheless. The game contains a boatload of charm and whimsy throughout. It has a great amount of humor without becoming overbearing or taking away from the experience like other games. I do feel like this game definitely deserves its own standalone review, so let me know in the comments below if that's something you would like to see.
King of Dragon Pass.
As a disclaimer, I will be showing footage from the revisions made back in 2015. However, the game was originally released in October of 1999. While I usually try to stick with the vanilla experience for these games, all the gameplay and features still remain the same. The UI is just much clearer now and has been ported to mobile devices. Regardless of what version you play, however, this is an underrated classic that I am glad is finally getting its due. It's hard to describe this game since there really isn't a good direct comparison. However, let's start off with the story. Your clan has fled their home of Herothland, and a new ruler known as the Pharaoh has taken control. Your goal is to ultimately create either a tribe or kingdom depending on your victory conditions, and be its leader for at least 10 years. This is way easier said than done, as this game can be a lot to take on early on. You'll not only have to manage your food supply, but also satisfy your farmers, your weapon thanes, and even the gods themselves. It can take a few tries before you get a feel for this game, but it definitely is worth it once you do. One of the highlights for me in this game is dealing with random events and clan politics. For example, a small feud within two families is brewing. You can make an attempt to try to placate the situation or hope it runs its course. It's always good to listen to your circle on how to deal with each situation. It's also vital to learn the lore of the world and observe how people in this world operate to see what they consider good or bad. I'm a sucker for games with great artwork, and it's fan-freaking-tastic here. It invokes a feeling of seeing a storybook play out right in front of your eyes. Couple that with the awesome soundtrack and you have a treat for both the ears and the eyes.
Heroes of Might and Magic 3.
The Heroes of Might and Magic series is a legendary franchise that has unfortunately seen better days. If you ask many people which one they have the fondest memory of, it will most likely be the third entry in the series. Playing it myself for the first time last year, it definitely lives up to its pedigree. The basic premise involves you recruiting units in your army and moving across the map to ultimately take out your opponent. The premise sounds simple enough, but the game features a plethora of creatures to play with, a vast array of spells to learn, artifacts to collect, strategies to implement, tactical turn-based combat, and a boatload of fun to be had. While there is a campaign to go through, I usually stick with the random maps, seeing what new challenge will be thrown my way. Recently, the game was given a HD remaster by Ubisoft, but I recommend for you to stay clear of that version as it is missing content from the complete collection. Instead, pick it up on GOG.com as it is definitely a good old game to play. Links in the description below.
Star Wars Jedi Knight Dark Forces 2.
The 90s were a time where Star Wars titles either became classics like Star Wars Rogue Squadron 3D or were negatively received like the Star Wars Masters of Terra game. Thankfully, Star Wars Jedi Knight Dark Forces 2 definitely falls into the former. The game has you take control of handsome mercenary Kyle Katarn as he attempts to discover his past after his father's passing. You start out by shooting your way through bad guys, but eventually obtain a lightsaber and even learn some force powers along the way. Along with action, you'll come across some sections that may need a bit of creative thinking to solve. Some are just switch puzzles, while others involved more creative uses of the Force. The levels are also full of secrets, encouraging exploration to find some powerful weapons. This game's narrative is mainly told through FMV cutscenes, which are still a ton of fun to watch. This is also when I was first introduced to Jan Ors, basically Kyle Katarn's partner in crime. I gotta say, Jan is a total hottie, and her and Kyle are just perfect for each other. For the production values, they aren't up to par compared to a full-blown Star Wars movie, obviously, but what's here is good enough. If you plan on picking it up, please don't forget to quick save. Some of these levels can take a long time to complete, and starting over can set you back a good amount. The game is challenging, especially early on when you don't have your lightsaber, but once you do, it feels satisfying as all hell. Fun fact, this was the first Star Wars game to feature first-person lightsaber combat, so you're looking at a piece of history right here. So there you have it, 5 more awesome PC games from the 90s to play. Did you enjoy it? Any that you would like for me to cover next time? Let me know. For the games mentioned here, the links to download will be in the description below. As always, thank you guys for watching, and this is Powerhouse, signing off.